of America and Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. And this show has been a passion for me from the very beginning because I get a chance to enjoy un cafecito with and also talk with successful women who share their insights about their roles along with their personal journeys into leadership. So join me in welcoming to our show our special guest. And with me, I have Dr. Chitra Dorai. She is the CEO and founder of AmicusBrain, which is a digital health company that brings the power of AI technology to transform care management for millions of families and people living with Alzheimer's disease and other dementia. So we can talk a little bit more about what that means in a few minutes. Chitra has over 30 years of experience in R&D and holds a prolific portfolio of peer-reviewed research publications, award-winning patents, and global research accolades. Dr. Dorai was formerly at IBM as an IBM Fellow and served as the Global CTO for Cognitive Services in IBM's consulting unit. She's the first woman, I'm so proud of this, Chitra, of South Asian origin worldwide to have been recognized as the IBM Fellow, the company's preeminent technical honor. And in 2019 and in 2022, she also received certificates of congressional recognition from the United States House of Representatives. Besides being a researcher, an entrepreneur, and mother, Chitra also volunteers unstintingly to make AI accessible to everyone. So welcome, Chitra. I'm so excited you're on the show. Next is Dr. Vanessa Montanez. And I've known Vanessa longer than I've known anyone on this call because we met when we were both at NAWRB. And Dr. Vanessa is a senior vice president and community lending national sales manager at City National Bank. That's a mouthful. Vanessa has more than 25 years of experience in residential lending and sales and business development management. She has also received numerous awards, including being recognized by the Los Angeles Business Journal as one of the most influential women in finance in 2022. That's awesome, Vanessa. She's also the CEO and co-founder of Lead Her Talks, which is an open forum to empower, elevate, and educate women. She's also a contributing writer on diversity for Women's Mortgage Magazine and has been featured on Univision and TV Azteca. Active in the community, Vanessa currently sits on the board of directors for Rebuilding Together the City of Los Angeles. She also serves as an advisory board member to the Montebello Housing Development Corporation, the NDLIC, NAMBA, and also National Corporate Board member and former president of the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals for the OC chapter. Is that correct, Vanessa? Was it OC?
It's the Corporate Board of Governors for NAWRB National.
Perfect.
But I was in the LA chapter.
That's right, LA chapter, because you were president of that chapter. That's when we both served. Vanessa also earned doctorate of executive leadership with honors from the University of Charleston and her master's degree in business administration from Pepperdine University. Vanessa is currently writing her first book, and I'm so excited about this, regarding the importance of social capital, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. And then last but not least, Desirée Patno, who's the founder and CEO of Women in the Housing and Real Estate Ecosystem, a visionary with over 3 decades of specializing experience in the housing and real estate area, providing advisory services, and is a global presenter and also an angel investor to enhance the quality of life, gender, equity, and social impact. She built NAWRB to elevate women, bridge industries, and change the world. She also hosts Know the Rules of the Game, which is a podcast covering quality of life, equality, and entrepreneurship. She also publishes NAWRB Magazine, which is a global publication read in over 70 countries. And she's a creator of Working with Family Office Clubhouse, co-hosting a weekly family office coffee clutch with special guests. And that one's really exciting because I want to learn more about it. So I want to welcome all of these phenomenal women to the show. And I want to get started really quickly because we have so much exciting news that each of these women want to share with you. So the first thing I always ask everyone is, how did you get started in your business? And, what does your role entail? How does that work? And I'm going to start off with Vanessa.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you so much, Teresa, for being here. I'm so excited. So I've been in residential lending for 27 years, and I fell into it because I got recruited to work at a company, a subprime lender called Beneficial Home Loans way back when. And I started realizing that it was an A to Z. We did everything in between. We did from home loans, car loans, personal loans, insurance, collections. And it was a really great foothold to get me into lending. From doing a great job, I got recruited to work at Countrywide Home Loans, where a good bulk of my career was started there. And that's what really launched my career, working at a call center and then working out in the community doing residential lending for first-time home buyers. And that what really launched my career in residential lending. And I never looked back. I've never done anything but residential lending, because once you help that first family or individual buy their first home, it is the best work. You become like the dream maker. It's the best job in the world, because you're getting to make their dreams come true from ownership. For most of us, it's that little piece of land that we want to have as our home and build our sanctuary and our safe place and have our family and friends get together. So that was it. I was sold. But because I worked a lot in the community, I really became enamored and really looked at affordable lending as a way to help people get into home ownership. So when I was originating, I really started looking at getting down payment assistance as one way of helping you attain home ownership. So that actually helped my career by being in that one niche, that one pocket that you're really good at. Then I started looking at the bigger picture. So what happens if we help one individual? And then what happens if we help a community or a city or then a state? So I started looking at this from a micro to a macro level. And that really fueled my passion into where I'm at now, where I'm creating a program. I'm like the chef in my own kitchen. So I got the opportunity to create the community lending division here at City National Bank. And it was just a fantastic opportunity because this is something that I know, affordable lending. So I got the support from wonderful team members, great company, and we created the Community Lending Ladder Up program along with the down payment grant. And so that really is a wonderful experience, because now I'm able to help at a local level and then on a national level as we build out the program, and then create a sales team, create a comp plan that really is second to none. So from being all these years of experience, you take the best of the best and you start looking at, okay, I would want a little bit of this ingredient, that ingredient, and that's how you create a really great program and organization.
Well, that's
so that's where I'm
exciting.
at now, and it's been a great experience.
It's so exciting because I've seen you develop from the very time that you and I met, and
Yes.
your journey and your experience and going back to school. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. But thank you so much for sharing that. And then I'm going to go with you, Chitra, because you also have a very unique story. You look at your bio, and such exciting and such prestigious work. And now you're even elevated to a whole different area, which I'm so proud of.
Thank you, Teresa. First of all, congratulations to your team, to you and your team, on this incredible milestone. And thank you for having us. It feels like we are among the friends. So I'm so excited to be here. So you mentioned in my introduction already that I had spent 20 plus years at IBM, and I was a top technical leader, being an IBM fellow and CTO. What brought me to AmicusBrain, or rather how I came to be starting this digital health company, is for a very personal reason, which is also shared by 11 plus million Americans every day. So right when life was absolutely, top notch, as someone would say, right after when I was appointed IBM fellow, soon after that, my mother was diagnosed with Parkinson's, and therein I became a remote caregiver. And caregiving for any disease is extremely onerous, with its own challenges, especially one with the neurodegenerative diseases like Parkinson's. It's extremely life disruptive. That's what I would call it. So pretty much my brother and my life, we were both caregivers, he locally caring for her and me remotely from the US. For the next 7+ years, we went through every stage of her disease, every change in her, every heartbreaking moment with her, and there were moments of joy. But within a couple of years, I realized that this cannot be my own journey. What is happening with the rest of the world, rest of the families? And it was the same, looking for resources, trying to find the best advice one needs to have to make your caregiving work better. So that's when I realized that there is something I can do here. I like, Mahatma Gandhi's, many of his sayings. One that always has stuck with me is be the change you wish to see in the world. So I felt that this is the moment. This is the moment that is made for me to step in and bring my skills to the table and change the course of care management for Alzheimer's disease and related dementia for 11+ million Americans who are facing it, who are caring for their loved ones every day.
Oh, and I love that. And I love your story, Chitra, and the fact that you took a personal situation that you really were challenged with and actually made it so it was a life mission. And we're going to talk a little bit more about in a few minutes, but it's so exciting that you're doing this work and you're getting a lot of traction now, which is really critical. And Desirée, tell me a little bit. You and I have known each other a long time as well. And I have you're one of my mentors. I love what you do. So let's talk a little bit more about your switch, because you actually kind of also transitioned your own journey to where you were focused on one area of real estate. And then you realize there's really a whole ecosystem that kind of falls into play with the work that you're doing.
Thank you very much. Yeah, Vanessa and I have known each other for years, so it's a great ecosystem we have here. The real estate base is really about how life begins and ends. So if you think about what we're talking about here, and the idea is that, my grandfather was a 50-year carpenter, and he was in the union. And the idea is that he built a bunch of homes. And so then my mother also built a 15,000 square foot home. And since birth, I was always around construction and everything we did. And she was always a problem solver. Okay, well, let me get some bowling alley. Let me get some glass. Let me recycle it. Let me reuse it instead of putting it around. So we were always a problem solver. Anything we didn't have, we figured out how to make it work and get something new. So the idea is that when I transitioned in from technology as a Department of Defense programmer and all that, got into real estate, I said, how do I solve problems? So selling properties, home ownership, like Vanessa, the passion and heart was great. But then once you do that, the drive for me is, okay, I solved that problem. How do I go on to the next problem? And so that came into the foreclosure crisis. So I became the #1 broker across the United States for Freddie Mac. And I started feeling, well, how do we do the single point of contact? How do we take care of all the things that were going on, which means that we're going to make sure that your next exit is going to be a good one, not look at it as a negative side. So I became a solutions provider for a lot of different companies, a lot of different ways. And so getting out of real estate in the core of just buying and selling and helping the real estate professionals, I decided that how do I make it to be better? Because we're always you got Vanessa being a lender, you're running these major companies in the D&I movement, you got, Chitra in the health side. They're all connected through real estate. So if we're all connected through different threads, you're only as strong as your weakest link. And my idea is that transition that out of the normal everyday real estate side, and how do we give vision so a community doesn't die? If we're not sustainable to ourselves and we're not sustaining that community, then life doesn't exist. And so that's where I've taken it down to really connect and how we can be a better player and a steward to life.
And I think there's no one that's a better connector and really a solution strategist than you. You've done an incredible job doing that. So one of the things that I do when I look at this show, I really kind of craft the thought and the invitees, the guests, and for you, I called Neuro Leaders, because it's all about, thought leadership, the brain, all of that. So as I look at each one of you, I'm going to talk to Chitra first, because you already talked about the fact that you left that high profile corporate job to start your own company. Tell me more about the app and what that means, right? What's happening in that space?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you should have seen the reaction when I delivered the news that I remember Desirée, when I called Desirée and let her know, So everything ranged from "Are you crazy?" to "Good luck." So what AmicusBrain does is it's bringing the power of AI, artificial intelligence technology, to assist, guide, and empower the caregivers, whether they are families or friends of people living with dementia. So since this disease is a slowly progressing disease that can take many years, the needs of the caregivers change from one day to another. It could be initially, what is this about? Because there is such a lot of misinformation about it and stigma around it. So people often don't even know where to start. What will I get it? Am I going to get it? How do I care for my mother, father, uncle, aunt? Okay, how do I find the resources? You can't be calling the neurologist in the middle of the night when you have some psychological and behavioral symptoms, which can often happen as the disease moves from early to moderate. So as I saw the care progression and how the needs varied and how I and other caregiving families were running from pillar to post, trying to find the resources, trying to get the sound evidence-based knowledge to improve the care management, to finding a community I can lean on and vent sometimes. It's not right. This is a pretty tough. It's heartbreaking for the person who has been diagnosed, and it is extremely disruptive for the care partners. So that's what AmicusBrain does. AmicusBrain is a one-stop platform with apps that you can access from any device, from mobile phone to tablets to your laptop to desktop. And depending on your need, you can access it for knowledge. You can access it to find hyper-local resources in your own community, whether it is cognitive behavioral therapist you're looking for, or just a speech pathologist or a geriatrician, to a safe online community where you can tap into others who are going through a journey to save. And there is also an advisor for caregivers' own well-being. It is important. The research shows the caregiver's well-being has a direct consequence on the quality of life for the person living with dementia. So that's what it is. So I wanted to build, I wanted to bring the families, caregiving families, and people living with dementia to one place that they can trust and that they can use in a self-service mode, because sometimes it's very hard to talk about it to others, even to the closest friends, what one is going through. So privacy preserving, trusted, evidence-based information and insights to power the caregiving journey throughout from start to finish.
And it's an incredible app that really does provide solutions and helps people connect, and also in helping them find not just the resources, but based on what your health coverage, and it comes in amazing languages. So even language, you can, no matter where you are, there's no issues. I'm just so impressed, Chitra, with that, and I really want to get it out to the world. That's why I thought it was really important for us to connect. Vanessa, I really want to talk about you, because also you have done something that I've always wanted to do, and that's go back to school, because you wanted to get that experience and also knowledge, and you're always seeking it. So talk about that process of going back to school, and also now that you're about to write a book, what is that about? Tell me more.
So first of all, ladies, it's never too late. Anyone can do it. I don't want to hear an excuse, because now with the pandemic, we have everything online. So just make time for yourself. You're the biggest investment. If we don't invest in ourselves, who is going to invest in us? So I just want to put that out there. If I can do it, anyone can do it. But it takes a little bit of grit and perseverance to pull through. So I started the journey because I was laid off. I was going really good in my career. Life is great. And all of a sudden, my previous, one of the previous banks that I worked at said, "I'm sorry, but we eliminated your position." I was like, what? There was 6 of us in the United States. They eliminated our position. And that had never happened in my career. So I've had a really great career. I've always excelled. And all of a sudden, it was the first time ever. It was like the ice cold bucket challenge where they throw you cold water. That's what happened to me. I was like, what? So I really took time to realize, what did I want to do with this time off? Plus, I got a severance package. And the higher you go up in management, the positions are less common. So not every day they're going to be, oh yeah, this bank has this position, or unless you become self-employed. And at that moment, I decided, you know what? Let me take a step back, assess my situation, and utilize the money that I was given with the severance package and really do something for me. And so what I love doing is learning. I'm an avid reader, so I wanted to go back to school and do something that I wanted to do for myself. So when I got my bachelor's and master's in business, it was really for career progression. But when I got this opportunity now to go back to school, I'm like, okay, what do I really want to study? And because we had the Great Recession from 2007 to 2009 with the housing bubble, a lot of the media, a lot of people were really blaming the lenders and the realtors. Oh, it was because of them we got into this position. I'm like, no. I'm sorry. But the Great Depression started from bad leadership. And it really, did the loan officers, did the lenders create derivatives? No, we did not. It was really from the top down. So I wanted to go back to school and I wanted to study executive leadership because I want to be that executive and I wanted to look what good leadership looks like. So that was my journey. I went back to school for that reason, and I wanted to do something that was fun. Little did I know, it takes a lot of work once you're back in school, and it was a lot more reading than I anticipated. And then I had to learn how to write APA style. When I was getting my bachelor's and master's, we did MLA, modern language. And I'm like, APA, what on earth is that? So I had to learn how to write a different style. It's like a different muscle. Like when you're doing exercise or you're doing crunches, you have to like exercise these certain muscles. And I had no idea what APA was. I had to look it up on Google. And I'm like, American Psychological Association, what on earth? I'm not going to be a doctor of, medicine like Dr. Chitra. So I learned how to write a different style. I learned a lot more research, but it was really great because I started using my brain in a different way. Research, writing, different methodologies that I wasn't used to, different writing styles. So that's what we need. We need to challenge ourselves at all times. So here I am. I started my journey and I actually was thriving in it. And what was really important was at the school, we got together as a team. So I had a cohort. To this day, there's like my extended second family. And it started from a team of 20. And at the end of this cycle, when we finished and we graduated, we ended up with 7. So it's a really challenging degree. It takes you because of the writing and the research. But in the end, I really enjoyed this process because it makes me think differently. It makes me look at more stats. And if I'm going to go up to bat with management and the executives, it's not because it's my idea only, but I do my research. I'm like, look, this is a solution and these are the case studies of why. So anytime you're coming up with, you have a situation or a problem, you start looking at other alternative solutions and other thought processes to make your argument more stronger. So I really encourage more women and anyone at that to go for it. You're like, oh, I'm at a crossroads in my life. Well, this is a great time to take advantage of that and go back to school or take a certificate or a course that's going to make you better in your career or in life and personal development.
I think
that's my journey.
And I think it's awesome because it really does. First of all, I have to look that up, your APA, because I have no idea myself. So just really, challenge yourself and realizing that your brain is a phenomenal thing. And so we really have to just use it every single day to improve the quality of our lives. I know, Chitra, you taught, that's something that Alzheimer's, if you use it, the more you use it, the more it really becomes stronger. So I love that you are sharing that with us and that you've done so well in your successes. Desiree, I know.
Teresa, before you start, can I add on to Vanessa real quick? Thanks. So Teresa, do you notice how Vanessa's paused when she said entrepreneur or go back to school to continue her journey? And you heard from Chitra how You know, she says that crazy moment. I was at the IBM think tank in 2018 where they had 44,000 IBMers, and she was the center point everywhere she went. That I went with her. She called me up the day before go. And so we went. I mean, when you have the brightest minds in the world, all, you know, there with quantum computers and NASCAR racing and all the things going on around the world. And she calls me up 2 weeks later and says, Desirée, I'm giving my notice. The impact of going from that high to the entrepreneur, and you hear where Vanessa paused. I just want to make sure that our listeners get that impact of where you're in your career. So I wanted to tie that together.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much, Desirée. And for you, I know that something new that you kind of took on, because you've done it all, you know, something that you took on was a new platform, Clubhouse, which I have yet to use myself. But it took you kind of into another world and into another area where you now have become really well known and versed, and that is family office. So talk a little bit more about that as well, because that's a shift as well, I think, that I think is really important, that also caught that brain, right? That neuro.
Thank you. So about 10 years ago, 11 years ago, I was recruited to bring the gender piece to the family office space. And so I had been doing a lot of different speaking because, you know, the biggest wealth transfer right now is going on. And so
let me back up. For those that don't know what family office is, just real quickly explain that.
So it's for private wealth of $100 million or more liquidity to invest. So you have different stages of family offices, multifamily and up. So if you think of the Rockefellers, the Bushes, obviously go through that lane. So it's private, obviously it's not public. So what happened is that when they wanted to see the gender space into the private wealth, or the high wealth, we'll call it at this time, or ultra high net worth, is that when I came into it, it was very exciting to see that you're thinking they know everything, but no, they knew their lane. And so it was really an extension to the ecosystem that we talk about. So when Clubhouse came about, it was actually formed right during March of 2020. We all know what happened in March of 2020. So I actually was championed by Wendy Kraft, who you all met, and from the family office, and to start the family office coffee collection, Clubhouse, and she said, Desirée, you got to get into it. So we formed the club, and it's now a house called, and it's an audio app that really was the very first one was brought out. And what it was, a collective made out of Silicon Valley. And the idea was invite only. And so now we've continued the generation for 2.5 years, and every week we meet. And what it is that it really helps me practice my craft. So if you think about it's completely ad lib, we have a theme, but you never know who's going to be in there. You can have guests in there, but what makes it so incredible is that you're learning about, it's like having a master class of 606 in college, let's say, of people coming in, and you're always news breaking, things are going on. So it's very dynamic and quick. But the great thing about it is I'm meeting people that I would never have met before. I'm meeting things and challenges and ideas. And so it's got me to hone in my craft, to find out more things in it's like college without a sign up of a degree. Mm-hmm. And so for me, it's been sound bites that has been incredible. So we've continued on, even though most people have gone to work, because it's something I can do anywhere, anytime, pop in, pop out. And it's really challenging. And I really love it because it really is about, you know, why do you know so much? Why do you know so many different things? But I'm not the expert in it, but I know enough to buy it, to have the Chitras of the world, to have the Vanessas, to have the Teresas of the world, to bring in that expertise to connect the dots.
I think that's amazing. And I think it's really taking you into an area that is really kind of very, very, prestigious, right? All right.
It has opened a lot of doors.
I know, right? It's amazing because I can call you and get connected at any given point. So, I really love this show because it really talks about leadership and how do we get there for our audiences? Because we're all, we have people from all over watching the show. So let's talk about how has each of yours intersectionality affected how you have been able to work on your careers, as well as what challenges has that posed? And I'm going to start with you, Vanessa.
Oh, that's a great question. So I think all of us are connected. So the intersectionality is how can you help others? So it stems with helping others get connected to somebody else. So for me, the intersectionality is networking. So it's all about reciprocity, but it starts with you being a giver first. If you see that there's a need, that you can help somebody, then you're going to connect them to somebody. For example, I have somebody who's really wanting to connect somebody in Georgia. I know that my go-to queen of networking and is Teresa. So I'm always looking on how I can help somebody else be a better version of themselves or help them in their career, their life in general. So it comes from that intersectionality of networking for me. That's my common connector. And I think that's the best way. For example, one of my old assistants called me just recently. She was looking for a job and she was at the right time, the right place. So I connected her with someone else. So it's always coming from a place of how can you be better for somebody else? Because the more you give, like you will get tenfold your blessings.
I totally believe that. That is so true. I was just saying that same phrase to my son about, giving and how it comes back 10 times, like the book, The Giver, which is one of my favorite books. I'm not a big reader, but I really actually read that book.
I read that one.
It was such an easy read and it was so insightful. Now, as far as intersectionality, Chitra, we've talked about that as well. Tell me how, especially in your field, which has been, I mean, you think about the STEM fields, right? And they're really dominant male. And, Desirée just shared with us how, when she went to IBM and to, hear all of these people just asking you and following you, how did that kind of pose a challenge, with the work that you were doing and then affected you as you work with others as well?
Right. The challenges I've faced are multifaceted. As you can see, I am not from this country. I was born elsewhere, and I'm a woman, who are very few in technology, especially in computer science and especially in artificial intelligence. The funnel gets narrower and narrower as you start looking into the specialization. So I like the way, Vanessa, I felt, yes, the challenges, unlike medical or legal fields where you can look at parity of representation, technology has quite a long way to go. So the women representation is much lower than the 20%, not even 20%. So what it has taught me over the years, over multiple decades, is there's some amazing, I call them groundbreaking women who have paved the field, right? Who have opened up these opportunities for me and my cohorts to walk through that and build the next level of bridge, elevate that, widen that pathway so that it doesn't become narrow, so that more people can come on that road. So lots of different kinds of challenges from the kind of things you read about in the papers. Especially when you're a minority in a discussion everywhere. But there have been amazing individuals who are very tuned into, who are sensitive and tuned into the overall environment and have done wonderful things. And that's what so it has become, when I came to the US, I have to tell you this one, people always ask me, what surprised you? Here I am, I was one of 9 girls who went to IIT. Then I was one of 72 girls, I was one among the 3 electrical engineers. And then I am ready to pack and come to the US because I am going to see lots and lots of, it's equal representation in graduate school. I came here and I come here and I first think, oh my. So the underrepresentation, I started thinking transcends national borders and it's up to us. So it's equally, just like I'm passionate about making technology work for everyone, it's also equally important to me to give back and make it easier for the next generation, next set of talent, wherever they are from, regardless of their the backgrounds, to thrive and succeed in the workplace, especially in technology workplace.
You've been such a leader.
I'm sorry.
I have to say.
I totally agree with you, Chitra. You have to be that change, and you have to bring in that parity, gender parity, and also representation, being a minority. I completely understand where you're coming from. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Desirée, how about you?
You know, I've always had a problem making friends. And so that being said, my interconnectivity has been about connecting with, giving them something they didn't know and making how they felt. So, you know, if you think about going up to someone and saying, you know, I have something to sell or something I want to do for you or something, if you really get to their heart by giving them something that maybe they didn't know about, or some passion that you have invested into them to find out more about them, about something like Alzheimer's, dementia, let's say, or knowing something about their children, knowing something that's going on, and not to get too personal, but I'm always been one to try to provide solutions. And by doing that, I knew that when I left, I made them feel good. That made me happy. So then I could say, yeah, they kind of like me because I made them feel good. And so it's a natural progression for me to have someone get friendly with them to want to do something. That's how I met Chitra in an elevator. And Toni Moss is the one who actually created the ecosystem for us. She's the one that said, Desirée, you need to call it the ecosystem of all the things you're doing. And so I met Chitra at Toni Moss's AmeriCatalyst and Eurocatalyst, which is the real C-suite of the world. And I went up to her and I said, Chitra, oh my gosh, what you talked about, how you related to the, the housing crisis, reading 4,000 documents a day by hand to make sure what was going, the similarities of writing off billions to save hundreds of billions of dollars because communities were falling apart during the foreclosure crisis. So I talked to her about my environment and how that passion changed me and what could be done. And I said, here's a statistical report that I had put together for the ecosystem. She says, great, I'll read it on the airplane on the way home. That connection, and look where we are today as the first investor in AmicusBrain. It really connected to me that I helped solve a problem and help connect the dots. And to me now we're friends, so it was very different in that environment. That's how, everyone out there, yeah, I have a real hard problem in making friends and feeling, adjusted. And so to me, if I can make people happy in the interconnectivity, is by helping them feel better about something, by giving them a resource that they might have not known about.
Well, I'm surprised about that because you and I immediately, I think, connected. So I really appreciate that, Desirée. So here's another question for all of you, because you've all done so much, but what would you consider one of your biggest accomplishments? And, what were some of the challenges? Just make it really short, that you had, or failures, because a lot of people don't realize that through our successes, you have to fail. And sometimes people give up too soon, And so I'll start off with you, Desirée, with that question.
I have two real quick. Obviously, NDLC, everyone here on the calls from the NDLC, and taking top leaders from so many different verticals to put them together to trust, invest time, money, and energy to be part of the council and to give back to providing solutions. And the second thing is, I think one of the greatest things that I did was a single point of contact. What is that? The single point of contact is when you went through the crisis mode, is how do we as real estate professionals help the homeowner transition to create better systems? And so when we were going through the foreclosure crisis, we had millions of people going through that process. And they'd have to call up and give the story every day, the same story to someone new, and there was no one being connected. So I championed Fannie Mae to say, no, I can do this technology-wise, I could do this. So I provided the system, and then it got on, and they actually created a single point of contact, which means you didn't have to explain your story every time to someone new. You had one dedicated person to take you from start to finish in that journey. And look how many millions of people went through that crisis that today still resonates. And now we're doing it on the commercial side. So it's very powerful to me. And I think that in itself that people can relate to, besides I have a few others, but I think that's the most important thing, is we have to have a system, and whatever we can do from the outside in and the inside out connect is what I wanted to champion.
Oh, wow. That's really impressive. Desirée, super amazing. I know Chitra had a little bit of, she had a huge impact that I didn't mention before, because there's so many accolades to you, Chitra, on the process, right? That you also were a problem solver on. But tell me, what do you now consider your biggest accomplishment? And also, as far as anything that you can share with the audience that you had a challenge with and how you overcame that challenge.
So Perhaps, if you had asked me the question 4 years ago at that time, becoming the first South Asian woman, because it opened doors. I think people, when that did not exist, other people of that ethnicity, did not even know that they could apply or they could get. So I think I would have considered. But now I would say, as you know, just very recently, less than a month ago, AmicusBrain's innovation work has been recognized with a semi-finalist Discovery Award winner in the Longitude Prize for Dementia, which is an international challenge competition, who are really looking at how to sponsor innovations that are going to go outside the box to come up with technological solutions to make sure that people living with dementia can have a more fulfilled lives. And it's very special because I started with nothing, right? I came out of my job, I stepped out of IBM, and I did not want to just shop around PowerPoint to get investment. I wanted to build this because I knew what it took to, what was needed to be to get it built. So I took my life savings and started it. So from there to where we are here, that some external agency, an international agency, who is focused on dementia and people living with dementia, chose to recognize AmicusBrain, so made it very special. When I stepped in, one thing, I was a technologies researcher, scientist, yada yada, but I never was a marketing, because there was always an IBM marketing team to do that part of the work. That is what good partnership, good teaming is. People do bring their A game, whatever that might be. So, however, with AmicusBrain, I have to step up to it. All right. So you could imagine my discomfort. I would say I had never done marketing.
That's an understatement.
Yeah. Thinking about branding and campaigns and reach outs and so on. So I had to step up my game here. So going from, I have never done this, to I went back to Mahatma Gandhi's words, right? If you believe that you can do it, surely you can acquire the capacity to do it. Even in the beginning, if you didn't think you had it. So I applied that to myself and learning, reading, just like Vanessa. I'm a lot of self-learner. Okay, lots of, so I wouldn't say I'm getting comfortable around it. This is getting my discomfort buttoned down so that I can, think about the company and how company needs to come across in the marketplace.
I think that's amazing, because we all are really good at our lanes, but when you step out, right, you can actually create a whole universe and start to realize, okay, and even when you hire, let's say you get to that point where I'm going to hire somebody that can handle this piece for me, you are now understanding the role a little bit more, right? I think that's why UPS, we always talk about UPS hires drivers to go into their management program, because those drivers are really the ones that understand the true work that goes behind that organization. And so I think that's amazing that you've done that. You've stepped out of that comfort zone and actually created something that has been just a huge driver for so many. And now, Vanessa, how about you? I'm assuming that there's a lot that you could talk about, but what would you say is one of those accomplishments that really kind of led you, and also what were the challenges or obstacles you faced along the way?
I think when you get your biggest accomplishments, you also have your biggest challenges. So they go hand in hand. Like, for example, right now we're all on Zoom. We created this new comfort being on webcams. I'm like, who knew that? Like, we were all public speakers, but now with the pandemic, we all now got the ring. We got all these little accessories. So we were forced to learn how to be a little bit more comfortable in our skin through webcam or cameras in general. At least that was my experience.
Okay, there you go.
But my biggest accomplishment, I think, is when I'm creating a program or a down payment assistance, and I'm able to now see actual quantifiable numbers of families that we've helped, or individuals. And that really ignites me. I'm like, that's the living legacy on how we create that generational wealth by home ownership. Because most of us obtain most of our richness not through, we were born in a family, the family services like Desirée is really well known in, But for us, that are starting out in life, through real estate and investments, we really are able to then obtain that generational wealth and pass it into our children and other generations. Because through investments or being self-employed or real estate, that's how we obtain that generational wealth and become into that higher level of income and millionaires. So that was my biggest accomplishment, is driving and creating that program. Now with those challenges are, oh my gosh, what did I get into? Because now you have to really think about, is it a great solution? Is it, can it stand by itself? And then is it available to sell to secondary markets? No deficiencies, how many people can qualify? And you have to start looking at the bigger picture to make sure that it's a sustainable program that will make an impact for a family or an individual, but also behind the scenes to your company. So it's been a wonderful experience, but with that comes a lot of challenge. Like the higher you go up the food chain, you have to think, how can you help the best of your ability to that individual? Because behind that somebody's life that you're helping them get into a home. So it's been my biggest experience and accomplishment, but with that comes a lot of challenges. But it's like that solution that we have to create, just like Chitra is doing with her app. It's like we have an issue that we have to solve for millions, but this is one way to go about it. So again, it comes with challenges, but a lot of blessings along the way.
Well, and also that macro thought process of how can this really be something that can really grow, and that also can really make a difference for not just one person, but a lot. So I can imagine that really does take a lot of different tools that you'll need to use to be able to get there. How about as far as, we talk about technology and we talk about tools, and what is one, social media innovative ways or tools that you have found that you want to share and recommend to others, that you said, wow, this is extremely effective for me, especially in your line of business? So I'm going to start with you, Desiree. I think you talked a little bit about Clubhouse, but what are some other?
I like Gamma. Gamma is a brand new AI company out there, like ChatGPT and some others. And they're programs that you can actually help you think and connect in different ways very quickly. And, we can look at social media as a way of connecting outside, but sometimes we need to look inside ourselves to get our thoughts before we share, especially with all the things that are going on right now. And so for me, I love Gamma, Gamma. They're all free. And the idea is that to help curate that, or you're not paying for something, to put together PowerPoints, presentations, integration. And there's different things like that I really like.
I'm going to take note of Gamma. That sounds fantastic. And anyone else? And Chitra, I just want your app, where can we tell me? Because I think that's a really important one. And so how do people, the general public, find that app?
Come to our website, just AmicusBrain.com, right in my screen background. And there is a tiny form to fill out if you're interested in a demo or you want to, subscribe to our services, and we'll get in touch right away as soon as you let us know.
Perfect. And Vanessa, anything you want to add?
I'm all about research. So I like McKinsey Institute. I like the Urban Institute. So these are think tanks that I use a lot from my background and get information and great articles. On top of LinkedIn, obviously, I love LinkedIn.
McKinsey's amazing. I think a lot of the work that they do, gosh, they spend millions of dollars with their research in every aspect. For DE&I, it's really critical. For women and gender issues, they do phenomenal work. So I couldn't agree with you more. All right, we're almost getting to our top of the hour. So a couple of just quick questions. One of the things that I like to do is obviously learn more about some either meaningful sessions that you've taken, any kind of education courses, or even a book that you've read that you think that is also available on Audible for those that don't love reading like me, that you think you want to pass it on because it made such an impression on you. And I'll start off with you, Desiree.
Wow, I do not like to read. I like short snippets. So for me, I find digging deep in articles. So I surf the news columns, whether it be anything from Twitter to every different news outlet, to see what breaking news are, to understand what's going on, and in very wide verse. So I get little snippets that are, say, 1,000 words or less, and I read across the system. So for me, it's not about just sitting down and reading a book, because a book's already pre-planned, it's already written, it's already happened. So to be an advisor to advisors and to predict the future, or to think about a dream of what that future is going to look like, you have to curate the dots, connect the dots, as you call the domino effect, Teresa. And that to me is the thread of the fiber of makes the cloth. And we're all existing. And so for me, it's all about surfing as much as I can. So I never stop looking and reading on little sound bites, not full things.
I'm that same way. I think that is something for me that if I can just, and I love YouTube. I am a huge YouTuber, so I watch a lot of YouTube videos that kind of condense things or thoughts or processes. So that's right up my alley. How about you, Chitra?
So, I tell people I read for a living, right? I devour books, and I have to keep up with the research and so on. So I like biographies in particular. There's so many out, but one I would, if you haven't, is that has sustained with me, that has stayed with me and sustained me during good and challenging moments, is, I would say, Mahatma Gandhi's The Story of My Experiments with Truth. Here, how an individual went on to grew into an extraordinary leader, social activist, and showed the success of this nonviolence movement, which other people in the US also came on to follow, which you all know. Yes. So I would say it's an extraordinary. It's little outdated because it's last century, but still the truths in them are everlasting, perennial.
So tell me that the book is called
The Story of My Experiments with Truth.
Oh, My Experiments with Truth. I like that a lot. And I'm definitely going to look it up. One of my favorite movies is the story of Mahatma Gandhi. Vanessa, how about you?
So I would say The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Mm-hmm. I read that when I was in college as a freshman, and it stayed with me because it has these rules of life. And one of them, start with the end, and you're like, what? So what kind of eulogy would you want your life to be? What kind of person do you want? And I was 18 years old reading this. I'm like, what? I don't know what kind of person I want to be. But in the end, as you grow older, you always think of what is the essence of Vanessa, and what do I want others to talk about me when I'm not here, when behind closed doors. So I always come from that premise, and keep sharpening your saw. Like, what? Yes, keep reading, keep being better. So I always go back to it. It's like my Bible. Beyond the Bible, this is like my second book that I go to at all times, by Stephen Covey. So definitely that's one that's in my bookshelves. It's all tattered, but it's my go-to.
It's a huge one, a huge popular one. 2 more questions, one I'm surprising y'all with. So what is your biggest, fear, or something that you feel like, oh my God, I overcame this? And Chitra, you kind of already talked about the side of, having the marketing side, but either personally or, that you said, oh my God, if I can do that, then I can do this. Anyone that wants to kind of throw that out. Desiree, I'm actually going to ask you that one, because I think so let me just say this. You are invincible. I think you really have, to me, that personality that nothing gets in your way, right? I feel like you are never scared to approach anyone to ask the question, right? Don't y'all agree? You
yes,
just go for it.
I'm glad you all think that.
So is there anything that you said, oh my God, I really am nervous, and then you actually, that was a big fear and you overcame it?
You're making me blush. Wow, if I had that much confidence, I would be great. So to that point, I'm always worried about that I said something that hangs on someone, that, maybe I said the wrong thing. And so I would say 3 or 4 years ago, I found my lane, that the biggest accomplishment was me, that it's not about everyone liking you. is that, your lane now, it's more complex. So, I kept trying to get we talk about paying forward and helping the next gen and everything else, but sometimes the connection and the complexity of someone is not their best game. And that's where I came in. I realized that I'm not everyone's cup of tea trying to explain, because I do go off calendar and come back. I mean, calendar is a very big way of saying it gets really wide and they have to shrink it down, and people are like, be focused. I mean, real quick, you go to the C-suite, you go to the upper management. When I was younger, they'd say, Desirée, say one thing, don't say 4 projects, don't go too crazy. And now I know I know my strength, that it doesn't matter what they need. I know what I need to get out. And sometimes it's been the game changer. So that confidence level 3 years ago or 4 years ago was the biggest game changer for me, that to overcome that, the confidence is within me, that I can say what I want, and I have to sleep with only myself. No one else has to go through it. So that was a big deal for me.
I think that's amazing. I really do. And I can tell the difference. I really can. Chitra, how about you?
The fear you're talking about? I think the fear is the fear itself, right? Fear of not tackling, not giving, not exploring something new, I would say. Yeah, so if I have to live a life of doing the same thing over and over and over and over,
You
so
couldn't
I
do
think-
it. I love that. I love it. And Vanessa?
I think my biggest fear is failure. If I fail something and I didn't do my best, because I've always focused to do my very best, but if I feel, I take it personal. So sometimes when we're giving a project or a big opportunity, you do not want to fail, because there's so much writing on this. And so that's my biggest is failure. My
But
biggest
failure really, you probably learn that it's just once you fail, you learn like, oh my God, I could have done this, or I think it really helps us in that learning process. And I have to agree with you. That's probably one of my biggest too, is failing, right? Oh, I'm so nervous about failing. But if you never get started and do it, how will you know? It's like you just have to get it done, right? All right, one last question as we finish our show, and that is the one that I always ask everyone. We want to end on a positive note. So tell me, what affirmation, what quote do you want to leave our audience that really kind of has resonated with you? And I'll start with you, Vanessa.
So one of my favorites is, just when the caterpillar thought the world was going to end, it became a butterfly. So my name means butterfly. Vanessa means butterfly. So I've always had this thing about butterflies. But to me, it's like, just when you think all is gone, like your failure, then, oh my God, you metaphor into something more beautiful, a butterfly. So don't be afraid to fail. And then something beautiful will come out of your failures or out of your mistakes.
Oh, I think that's really beautiful. Chitra, how about you?
Yeah, this I say that I read this when I moved from overseas to here, and I started my graduate studies fresh, new person, new everything. And if you do not work on important problems, you will never do important. It's unlikely you'll do important work. And that has stayed with me. And every major decision, I always first check whether is it going to be such an important thing. So that, because sometimes problems aren't, need not be that big. So we have to pick and choose the problems where we can leave a legacy, like Vanessa said. So
On a legacy like you're leaving as well. I mean, honestly, it really is so true, right? I think that's a great quote. And Desirée, I'm going to leave it with you.
So my quote is actually our trademark: technology, human balance. If you think about the world we live in right now, we have to really smell the roses and keep a quality of life, because the interaction of what happened to multi-generations ago, so we can pass on the legacy of our families, is everything. And we've got to make sure with AI and everything that's going on. And so one of the great little quotes I think that are cute is, buckle up, buttercups.
Oh, buckle up, buttercups. I like that a lot. So buckle up, everyone, because it is just changing every day, and we're in it, right? I am so impressed with all of you, and I really love all the work that you're doing. And I want to thank all of you for being on the show today. And I found this great quote that I think describes all of you and your leadership. And that is, leadership is the capacity to translate vision into reality. And I think that is every single thing, just that vision, translating it into reality. So thank you so much again for participating on this panel today. I really enjoyed all of you and our conversation and our cafecito together, right?
Yeah,
And
thank you.
right. And
Yay!
all of our audience members for joining us as well.